Hello, and welcome to the 12th episode of the Talos Principle. Last episode we conquered level 3, and this episode we shall head to level 4, collecting all but one of the pieces needed to unlock the final world, and have to find not one but 2 stars. Let's begin.
You may wonder why I have created these labyrinths for you. Why you can reach eternity only through struggle. But have faith, for these trials serve the betterment of your kind.
It is indeed a common mindset among the religious and even some non-religious, that the reason we struggle in life is to build character, to better ourselves through overcoming it. A few issues I have. For anyone who thinks that God is all-knowing, it becomes a question of why he even needs to test us in the first place. The only sect of Christianity that I think addresses this quite aptly is Calvinism, where from cradle, or even before then, your fate is already sealed, given God's forward-thinking nature. But on a more secular note, I don't quite buy that at all either. I don't think we'll be any worse off without any major struggles to overcome. Certainly not some of the struggles we've had in the past. After all, how do we even better ourselves when... Who gets better when dying in a genocide? The rape of Nanking, the Armenian genocide, the Holocaust. How were they getting bettered through their struggles? It certainly can't be all struggle, so therefore it should be alright to try what we can to eliminate that as much as possible. But even through things like sickness, through temporary debilitation, being stuck in a wheelchair, or in a cast, serious psychological issues and emotional issues. Getting better through a struggle is your PC breaks down, and through a bit of good Google searches and learning how to better shift through information, you're able to fix it on your own. Well, with the help of the people on the internet, and you feel a little better for yourself. But that's hardly what they talk about when somebody complains about struggles in life, and they throw out their pseudo-philosophy about how it's supposed to make you better. Oh look, another puzzle, and another voice telling me I'm special. And another broken down computer with fragments of nothing. This world is a bad joke, perpetrated by a cruel god too dumb to hit the off switch. Well, at least you don't have cancer in your world, buddy. Sure, I could stick around here, set my hopes on eternal life, on righting every wrong, but the closest I'll ever get is these words on the wall before you. Why is everyone so damn pessimistic in this episode? Did Elohim's little pep talk really piss him off that much? Look, this guy killed himself. Epitaph Child Program version 17.1. Codename @ Terminate here, logic, fatal flaw in series firmware, final memory dump, life short. it looks like it's possible for these robots just to straight up die by other causes. I will get to that. Look at the sheer scale of that pyramid. To think anyone could have built such things. No, this is a simulation. Well, technically another simulation. We're playing a video game. It is quite incredible that these ancient monumental structures do exist, and that they've lasted all this time. As I was saying in the episode where I rambled on about mummies and cryostasis, the only reason we really know about ancient Egypt and are able to have this aesthetic in a video game is simply because what they've built have lasted. And that seems to be a running theme for this one, as we'll see.
DNA is information transmitted across time. The living and the dead are part of the same chain, bound together by chemistry. That's true of all species. But humanity has taken this bond further. Thanks to technology, we have access to the thoughts and ideas of people whose physical bodies are long gone. Like you listening to me now. Even though I'm definitely dead at this point, you're part of that chain. You have the capacity to remember.
And of course, let's visit the terminal and see if there's anything interesting to read. Maybe it will continue this theme we've been uncovering. Now this is pretty clearly an allusion to the game in its entirety. And so the traveler could not avoid the trials that had been decreed, and could only proceed toward the tower by proving his worth, thus earning the key to each sacred gate. It's not even tongue-on-cheek, it's quite yelling at you. And here is perhaps a less elegant summary of the theme than what Alexandra had to say. There's a reason I keep making these episodes, even though perhaps only 1 or 2 people actually watch these, if that at all. And that's quite simply because I know that these episodes will be available long after I've completed them and uploaded them, assuming YouTube doesn't outright shut down, or for whatever reason my account gets terminated. I've done here and now will be available to people in the future. Perhaps if I do die because we weren't fast enough to come up with immortality, somebody will watch this while I'm freezing in some cryotube and get a good summary of my ideas and philosophy. Some of these challenges must be designed with cooperation in mind, but I am the only one here. Sheep version 69. I do like these initial challenges for the simplicity of them. I do think, and I think I've mentioned this before, that good puzzle games starts out easy, so you get a good idea of the mindset you're supposed to take when going through them. And then can get as difficult as it desires. will be able to know my thoughts and opinions and philosophies, and if they knew what I looked like, they might even be able to recreate a convincing version of me, a completely separate entity than what I am. I've been working on a story, a little bit of literature that touches upon this subject, because it is one that is discussed in some transhumanist circles. It's about a historic figure who, through very good technology, has his physical body brought back, and as close to the memories he's experienced while he was alive are recreated and put in his memory. Now, the person in question is different in the book than what I'll mention here, but let's use him anyways. Abraham Lincoln. If we were able to recreate his body and recreate his personal opinions on things, would you say that we've recreated Abraham Lincoln himself? Some will probably say no, and that's an alright answer. I'd actually agree with you, to be honest. But I'm more interested in talking with the people who say yes on the matter, quite simply because we disagree. So to press this question further, alright, hold on, Elohim will have something to say here. Come on, God.
What is this? I shall not allow the corruption of my garden. Be gone!
Yeah, we get you replace brick with sandstone. Congratulations. You're almost as good as any kid in Minecraft. So as I was saying, before God had to flaunt his power a little bit, the desperate git, what if we recreated Abraham Lincoln, his body and his beliefs at the time, and then we updated those beliefs? Would you say it's still Abraham Lincoln? How would it depend on it? If we just updated his beliefs by implementing more advanced egalitarian values into his brain, because while Abraham Lincoln detested slavery, he was by no means an egalitarian. He did not believe in the real equality of the races, that it is just skin deep and that there isn't some inherent inferiority between whites and blacks. Some people will probably hate that fact, but I don't care. He's a product of his time who has done something incredible and extraordinary for human lives. No need to get pissy because he wasn't super advanced. But what if we do give him those egalitarian values, and we go the whole 9 yards? He accepts the equality of the races, the sexes, he's all for gay rights. As soon as he comes out of the pod where we grow his body in and implement his memories, he is, by all accounts, a modern man. Would that be the same, even if he has his memories and some of his opinions from his time? They'd probably object. And again, I would agree. So, what if instead we just teach them this stuff naturally through good arguments and a bit of empathy? We convince him about gay rights, gender equality, all that stuff. Would he be the same, even though he would still be holding different opinions? Or is the slow, natural process of which he'll come to take these opinions mitigates that? After all, if I were frozen for 1,000 years and wake up and it turns out there's aliens, and it turns out we're at war with the aliens, and I decide to take on some of the opinions of the time in the future about the matter, would I be a different person because of it, even though those wouldn't be the opinions that I'd have when I was frozen or preparing to be frozen? Let's briefly take a break and read these. It seems the mistakes here are easily forgiven. I thought I had surely died, yet here I am, reset, rebooted, reborn. I will tackle these challenges anew. Samsara version 72.2. And then he just dies. Program failed to pass random memory test. Final memory dump. Being torn limb from limb by machines for the rest of eternity becomes less and less appealing to me. Many births the version 72.3 series. Well, there's certainly no machines in this game that'll tear you limb from limb. I don't know where he's getting that from. Let's get the final star, which is hinted at by this bit here. The burning heart always looks to the highest peak. Here's his heart, and that's clearly the highest peak. What am I doing? How is it easier to connect one of these on the moon than it is to connect them on the top of a pyramid? So I ask these questions again because they're sort of relevant to transhumanist circles. But my last question on the matter is, alright, so let's say bringing back Abraham Lincoln and updating his thoughts in any ways is not going to be the same guy because it's important that they preserve the same thoughts and ideas they had when they died. Fair enough, but what if we update their bodies? What if tomorrow Stephen Hawking has his entire brain scanned by some advanced machine, every single neuron and connection accounted for, every single chemical balance recorded, and then we decide to recreate him? He has the exact same memories and opinions and ideas in the recreated version, but we're not assholes. We're not going to debilitate him, make him unable to walk or move his body. We're not assholes like whoever programmed the holodeck in that Star Trek episode. where Data played poker with a bunch of scientists. Right, this Stephen Hawking, he'll be able to walk. He can wipe his own ass. Would you say that's the same Stephen Hawking as the one who left us initially, to those who are proponents for this copy-paste idea of keeping the person alive? After all, the argument could be made that not being able to walk or move is such a huge part of his life and his identity. It certainly made him one of the more recognizable scientists of the 21st century. Became a nice little story that was turned into a movie, The Theory of Everything. Sounds a bit bent. And if it wouldn't be the same person, if not being able to move is such an integral part of his identity, but you're a proponent of the idea that recreating someone's mind and then updating it with modern values, and not just modern values, maybe modern knowledge. Let Abraham Lincoln know who the future presidents are, what wars happened. If that is legitimate, then why the difference? And of course, to finalize it, what if we bring Stephen Hawking back, and rather than immediately give him the ability to walk, we've somehow cured that debilitating issue in the future, and we give him the opportunity to be cured? Would it be the same? The same way as someone might argue that bringing back Abraham Lincoln with his less than modern views and then trying to convince him of the modern views is legit. I mention all this because one sort of popular idea in transhumanist circles is the whole copy-paste method of preservation, where if someone is about to die, you scan their mind, map out each neuron connection, chemical balance, whatever. And then when that person finally does die, you put it all in a new body, be it a robot body, or perhaps a fleshy body, or maybe even a mix of the two. This is transhumanism. Me personally, as I've mentioned, I don't agree with this at all. Even if there is an exact copy of me walking around, I would still be dead. The experiences I'm having right now would be at an end, and there would be a different entity who would be having my experiences instead, the experiences instead. And that different entity could eventually branch off into something that I wouldn't at all be. Perhaps there is an element of randomness to the mind where different opinions and ideas that become dominant are determined by statistical chance. After all, it's understood that there is indeed a dominant side of the brain where the brain holds two conflicting views and then one side ultimately wins over. But if you could separate the input between the two halves, that is, ask both sides the same question, they'll answer things differently. This experiment has been done a few times on people who do have a faulty connection between the two hemispheres, and it's quite honestly one of the most interesting facts, in my opinion, about the brain there is. So if there's a copy of my mind walking around, it could come to completely different conclusions than I myself would if I were alive there and walking around. Perhaps that version of me has been having a particularly good day and thought higher of a place than I would when I was having a particularly bad day. The way around this would be a Theseus ship method of replacing neurons with mechanical equivalents. I've mentioned this in a previous episode, but to expand on it, the Theseus ship paradox or problem is you have a wooden ship, ship A, and piece by piece, plank by plank, nail by nail, you take apart ship A and assemble them right next to it, call it ship B, and you replace the stuff you removed with new planks and new nails. At what point, if at all, does ship A, the one ship getting its parts replaced by new stuff, cease to be the original and ship B is now the original, all the old parts, if at all? Perhaps you're of the opinion that ship A is and will always be the original since you had to basically reconstruct it. And if you think that ship B is the original, then at what point did ship A stop being the original? Now, I'm not advocating for building an entirely new brain out of my old neurons. That would be silly. But it is of a similar fashion where neuron by neuron, my brain is disassembled and replaced by a mechanical equivalent. If this is done step by step and I'm conscious throughout, I'm self-aware, I'm awake even, then I think I would be safe to say that I'm still myself. After all, I can have my entire heart replaced and I'd say I'm still myself. I can have my entire body, save for the brain, replaced and still myself. But as long as I'm still self-aware that there's no brief shut-off, it's a smooth transition, I don't think there'd be any major philosophical or existential issues for me. And some might disagree, and by all means comment on why. I'd be interested in hearing your opinion, because I'd like to have some good arguments and discussions for the book I'm writing. This would have to be done pretty much step by step though. I can live with, let's say, I no longer remember a birthday party I had where we played laser tag and I got first place for a brief moment. After all, there's plenty of other birthday parties I've had that I don't remember, and then that memory comes back and it's like, oh yeah, it just returns. But it would not be good if all my memories were removed at once and then put back at once. It might even be a interesting idea if there was some way for whatever is doing this to read out whatever memory it's removing and show me that memory on a bit of text in front of me. This is your whatever birthday party, you played laser tag, you got first place, and briefly, I don't remember that at all. And then briefly again, I do remember it. And I would be able to say it's fairly legitimate because throughout all of that procedure, that text would be in front of me, so while I wouldn't remember that specific memory in the first place, I would at least be able to remember that text being there before the memory was removed. Not quite sure how to come up with an analogy to describe it, but I do hope I described it well. And I think I've rambled on quite a bit too long about this subject. How interesting we went from just the bare fact that the writings of Aristotle and Freud and Anaximander and all these different people are still alive because they've been preserved through the ages, so we can still have a sense of who they were, to talking about bringing back historical figures and some of the moral and existential dilemmas surrounding that, to talking about replacing our brains with machinery. Oh, the wild places you can go when you ramble on and on incoherently. But I'm sure Milton here is getting angsty to talk to us, so let's oblige. What I've decided is that you've convinced me consciousness is a contradictory concept, and is therefore not real. What do you think? I don't apparently, but I think he's being way too hasty with that conclusion. Even if we aren't able to define it, that might just be a limit of our understanding of how it emerges from the brain and our own language. But it is something we still are able to experience and know when something is conscious and when it isn't. Compare me to a skeleton right now, I will certainly be regarded as conscious, and there's no one who'd argue the skeleton is, so I think he's cheating. This fucker's real sassy. But looks like we have administrator privileges, because he just up and out decided consciousness doesn't exist. So why am I going through all this? Well, I want to have a complete let's play, but that's clearly not going to be the answer in the game. But I understand that collecting these sigils here unlocks things. Collecting a bunch of green sigils lets me go to New World. A bunch of gold ones let me unlock new assets. And stars seem to unlock other worlds as well. So I want to unlock everything and read everything and find all the recordings. Essentially, I want the truth of the matter. Alright, Milton, if you can find an actual reason why my opinions aren't holding up, rather than just simply declaring that consciousness itself is contradictory and not give me the option here to explain why it's not. I'll speak to you again, but I won't exactly like it, from what I understand. sassy little shit. You're a person. You are perfect just the way you are. You are everything you can be already. You do not have to pretend you are anything else. You are the same as everyone else, but you are all unique. If you have a problem with my philosophy, actually come up with an argument and stop hiding behind your sass. Let's talk to someone else, someone who isn't a wanker. Alright. Hopefully it's not like chat roulette where we just get dick pictures. Hello? Let's ask if they're a person. After all, there is an issue with chatbots. What do you mean? Yes. Why would you ask that? Around here it matters. I understand. Ending. Wonderful. How enlightening. Well, looks like we've done everything there is for episode 4. Next time we'll conquer level 5. I said episode 4. Level 4. We'll conquer level 5. Get the last piece we need to finally leave this sandy hellhole. But we will stick around for level 6 and collect 2 of the last pieces needed for the final asset, and level 7, and finally unlock that asset. Though we will have to go to another world for it. The amount of new mechanics and items this place can offer is spent. That's quite a jump. Guess I can't do it twice. So I hope you enjoyed the episode and that I gave you something to think about. Next episode, I do think I should start announcing what the discussion topic will be. If nothing else, so I won't be caught with my pants down and have time to think over what I want to talk about. Next episode, I think I will either discuss the idea of an optimal morality, that is, the issues with current morality simply because of our limitations. Or maybe I'll just go into another bit about some issues in transhumanism and possible solutions. And then of course there's whatever is the main theme or philosophical concept of that level. Just like level 4 was how we tend to live on after our death through our works. But that is all for another day. I hope you enjoyed the episode again. Take care, and I will see you next time. If I'm even alive to see